Alright, so let's put a few finishing touches on the walk cycle to sort of wrap all this up together. So before I tackle the legs 100%, I want to get to the waist and the hips. One thing I want to do for the biggest one is get the sway the back and forth. And now that we have a key on every frame, we're sort of just going to dissect it one frame at a, or one pose at a time. So our contact pose, our down pose, our passing pose, and our up pose, we're all going to adjust it there and sort of work its way throughout the rest of the cycle. So when the character is coming down, when the foot's about to be planted, all the weight should be on this side of the character. So I'm just going to shift it over on the, what axis is it? On the x-axis, not even one. Let me see what a one looks like. Yeah, but one unit to one side. And as the foot comes down, that's when the start of the transfer should start. So I'm going to still keep it at 1, and we'll see how it goes. So the foot comes down. As the body sort of pushes over, we're going to push the waist to the opposite side. So maybe here we put this at close to 0. Then obviously the foot, when we get it done, is going to be planted a lot sooner. We'll get that transition going. So at frame 8, we're at a negative, let's do a -1. I want the shift to be terribly bad. I want -1. Frame 12, all the weight still should be on this leg here. Then as the character comes down, just like at 0 I have it at 1, here I'm going to put this -1. Let's see, I have this at -1.3. So as the foot comes down, then the body's going to start transferring. So on frame 20, we got the opposite of 4. So whatever 4 is, you can either trade that value or just look at what it is. I want to put this at 0.3. And put the other one on 4 at -0.3. Then at 24, which will be 8, that's a -1. So I was going to throw this at 1. Then at 28, which is 12, this is at negative. I'm just going to go ahead and copy that, Control C. Put it into 28. And just get rid of the negative. And it's at 1.399. And the other thing is obviously at frame 32. I need to put this at 1. Uh-oh, what we got going on here? Oh, you're actually at 0. Not sure why that happened. You're supposed to be at there. Alright, so now we got our side to side going. Now that we got the waist going side to side, for the most part, the hips, you can shift the weight for more weight as it goes side to side, but to me it's going to be a little too jarring, and that's why I sort of leave it as is. So I want to go and start on the feet, mostly the knees popping. So the way I'm going to go about that is I'm going to start with this foot right here that's dragging across. So at frame 22, the up pose, I want to bring him up just a little bit, bring this foot down to the ball roll less than what the ball roll is on 16. So I'm going to put it at 22 for now. It's going to hyperextend the leg for a little bit, but for frame 16, I just want to make sure it's lower than this one. At frame 8, the foot's supposed to be completely flat anyways. Put that at 0. So at frame say 8, the leg just crazy hyperextends. So I want to push the waist down, or the cog down a little bit, so the knee's not bending. Through here, the leg does hyperextend, and it actually is stretching out the rig a little bit, but it eliminates the knee pop. And it really depends on what your character is and how much that feels like the leg's extending, or if it's popping, that you're going to want to adjust it. But for me, I want to leave it as this, just to keep the knee consistent and clean. And now I'm going to make this do the same process on the other side. The other side is going to be slightly different because the character actually comes down at the loop of it. And one thing I didn't do is I didn't check my Y, up and down at the loop. I need to make sure those are both flat tangents by selecting each key, hitting flat tangent. That'll allow it to loop cleanly. Just double check up close to make sure that it is. So with that, now I can go to this foot, sort of do the same thing where the ball roll's at 23. At 28, I want that ball roll to be shorter, so I'm going to throw it at 22. Then at 24, the ball roll needs to be flattened because the foot is flattened. Then here's where you start going for the adjustment. Push this down at frame 24 slightly. Don't let it get to that point. This one's being a little bit more troublesome with the jitterness. You see it pops and then it unpops out right in here. And I may have to go into the curve editor where it's actually looping and coming down. Make sure those are so right in here the knee straightens out and it makes a slight pop, so I'm going to adjust it just enough to be 21.5. Oh wait, maybe it's the opposite way. Oops. 22.5. Just smooth it out quite a little bit. But one thing I have forgotten to do again is on the foot plant. When the foot comes down, frame 2, when your foot comes down, frame 2, that foot should be completely down, flat. And I think I did that on both sides. So I'm going to zero out the ball there. Grab this side. Oops. Go to frame 16. Go to frame 18. On this foot and zero that out. So you got the step there, and now the feet are stepping. And if you want to add even more to that, sort of that flare, I believe it is the toe up and down you can go to. At 16, probably you could do it at 16, just put a little flare up right here for the loop of that foot, and then at 18, you definitely have it. Oops, wrong one. At 18, you could definitely have it at 0. I think I got some ball roll. Let me get rid of that. So I'm having my ball roll, it keeps coming up, and I think what's going on is in the graph editor, if I were to go all the way down to the ball roll, yeah, got all this wonkiness going on. select all the keys, AutoKit, straighten all that out. Oh, messed up this part of the knee. I think that needs to be straightened all out. So break this tangent. Okay. Okay, so now I got the legs, lower body pretty much where I'm wanting it, not too bad. After thinking about it though, I do like how the feet were coming in closer. So I'm gonna go back and adjust that with the X, yeah, X translation. Just gonna look at it in real time. So when the foot's down, grab these keys, zoom out a little bit, middle mouse. It's gonna push it in a little bit. Let's go about 0.65 or 0.58. Oops. Yeah, that, and then the other foot about the same. Where am I? So what I'm doing is, this is the point where the foot is up like this and it's sort of out. I'm just grabbing the keys when the foot is down that are somewhat close, and I'm just pushing those keys. I believe it's down, just to squeeze it. And actually all I'm doing is just pushing it this way, more or less, just so the feet are a little bit closer together when he's walking. So now let's just jump into a quick head motion just to get the locomotion of the head sort of going, and we could probably add the shoulders as well. But just like anything, as the body comes down, the head, the rotation of it is sort of rotating and counterclockwise, but the head sort of rotating up this way as the body comes down, but once it plants, the head sort of dips forward. So instead of frame 4, I'm going to go at 0, so around frame 2, I'm going to pitch the head just a little bit up. Delete key for at this keyframe. Then as the body starts to push up, around 7 or 6, I want to push the head down a little bit, so we can get that kind of look. Then at frame 12, leave the keys as is, and at 16, leave it. Then you sort of repeat the process again. Frame 2, push the head a little bit. Then around 22 to 24, push the head down a little bit. And that probably is another key rotation. Yep. Actually, there's no key at the end, so that might help. So one thing at frame 16, this pop is a little too much, and as the body's coming down, the head sort of stays still. So at frame 16, I want to pitch the head just a little bit up. I could probably go in the graph editor and adjust it so that it's closer, sort of match here. Then the same thing here. I can actually grab both keys on both sides and sort of move them up at the same time, sort of get an idea where they're going to be, so they'll match together. Make both those keys tangents, and then adjust accordingly to sort of get it to look like the other one. And then you have your head motion in there. Then real quick, we can do the same thing with the shoulders. You can use translation, but I'll just use rotation, especially if your shoulders are locked. Well, not locked, sorry, if the shoulders are world spaced. So when the body comes down, frame 4, you can pitch them down a little bit, and this has to be on world space as far as the controller. If you hold down E and then right click, you can go to object, the world. It needs to be on object, object. So in frame 4, you're going to pitch it down a little bit. So 0 is coming down. That's when all the weight and the gravity sort of hits. And then at frame 4, you're still going to have them down just a little bit, and then allow it to sort of come up naturally, I guess, to frame 12. Then the same thing will happen at frame, like the same 3 keys. The good thing about this, you don't have to offset it, or not necessarily offset, you don't have to flip it or anything else like that. You can just copy these 3 keys. Copy frame 4, frame 1, frame 20, just paste them. Oh. And you get that same rotation up and down on the shoulders from just copying it. And then you have a little bit of a walk cycle, and you can go in, adjust the head if it's too bouncy for you, or if it's too not to your likings or cartoony, which I'm sort of going to do right now. And how I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to just grab everything, select this little controller here, push this down, push this one up, and sort of just unifies everything together. And I just toned it down a little bit. So there's your walk cycle. Just a generic base walk cycle. Alright, see you guys next time.